We were talking about what inspired us to join.
Hmm.
Somebody said my name, and I said flattery will get her everywhere. Another person said they were interested um, to learn more about helping people also see this. Another person shared that they were re-entering the wild, also known as civilization, and they were just keen to learn more about how to do that better, I'm imagining.
It reminds me of like in Zelda, they have it's dangerous out there, take this. And I feel
Yeah,
like the three principles are like the sword that they give the character Link.
I could
It's
see that.
dangerous out there in society. Take this understanding.
I, yeah, I think for me, I was inspired to join because Rich asked me. That's it. Because Rich is a cool guy, and also I love talking about this. I think the topic of soothing an unsettled mind, like actually two in one to me. There's self-soothing, and then there's an unsettled mind. Totally get it.
So first, I know that we all probably have a little bit of an unsettled mind or have experienced that. How does that show up and has that showed up in your life?
Sure. Just so I understand, what do you mean when you say unsettled mind?
Hmm. What I mean when I say an unsettled mind, I mean that there's a mind that's searching, that it's trying to get something, that
Hmm.
it feels, and we have this story of I'm unfulfilled, or I don't have what I need, or I'm not enough. And I feel like a lot of us then go on a search for, okay, what is my missing piece? And that creates an unsettled mind.
Like not at peace with oneself, unsatisfied, unsettled.
Yes,
Okay.
not at peace with oneself. That's a good.
Okay, that's a cool way. Yeah, I know that one.
You've experienced it before? Once?
Yeah, once or twice here or there, you know. Um, sure. So, my name's Nikon, and I'm a recovering perfectionist, overachiever, people pleaser. And my gig or premise was I never thought I was good enough. So my way of self-soothing that premise in my thinking was, oh, if I could just achieve enough, fill in the blank, achieve enough success, money, abundance, whatever, then I would be good enough, and then I would be okay. So that was my way of self-soothing my own mind. But I didn't know I was doing that. I just thought that's what you were supposed to do to be good enough, you know. And I played a ton of video games when I was a kid. I still do. And being a very young, impressionable kid, well, video games level up. So all I have to do is just level up myself and keep improving myself. Because if that's what video games do, then surely that's the right way. And that's what I did for most of my life. I just kept trying to get new skills or habits, just trying to keep leveling up, or self improve myself based on the premise that there was something lacking in me or there was something not enough. And that seemed like a good idea. But the problem was that game never finished. For like 30, like I'm 38 now, like for like 30 years, that game never finished. There was just more to do, more to achieve. I did I was a professional taekwondo player. I traveled on all around the world collecting medals and competing, and all the gold medals in the world. I had it inside, like all the gold medals in the world weren't gonna make me feel the way I wanted to feel all the time. I could feel it maybe for like a day or two after I'd win, or I'd had a really great training session, but it was never enough. And then I read a book called The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neal. A lot of you might know that. And I couldn't tell you what page or what I read, but I felt for the first time at home within myself. And it was like, I would call it a glimmer of hope, so to speak, of like, wait, I'm okay? Like, no, bullshit. But I was curious enough to read everything else about Michael Neal had wrote and listen to all his podcasts and listen, like, figure, like, learn more from his teachers, like Mavis Karn and George Pransky. Like, and then the more I saw it, the more I could no longer ignore the truth that I was okay and that I was making ideas. I was believing in my thinking that I wasn't good enough and that the only thing keeping me from being more okay more of the time was believing in my thinking that I wasn't okay. And then I'll never forget it. It was the day I realized, wait, the only thing I'm up against is my own thinking. Get out of here, you know. And it I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't something I had to like logically explain to myself, but I just knew it to be true because it felt right. And I think that was about the time I was nearing the ending of my Taekwondo career. And one of my big things in Taekwondo is I would get really anxious when I was winning, especially when I was winning on because I would like, oh no, what do you do? And am I good enough to be winning? And da da da, or like, or I'm not confident enough. And then that day, I stopped caring what I was thinking about. And I decided I'm just going to go out there and have fun. Turns out when you stop trying to figure out the thing you love becomes very simple. Like Mavis Karn said the other day, you know, when you stop trying to figure out life, life becomes a lot more enjoyable. And to me, I think a very innocent way we try and self-soothe ourselves is that we try and figure out our own minds, our own thinking. We try and figure ourselves out innocently. And what we're really trying to do is self-soothe ourselves. But the truth is we don't need figuring it out. Um, yeah, I spent my whole life trying to figure shit out because I thought it would make me feel better. And when I stopped trying to figure it out, because I had help of teachers and elders who showed me that when you don't figure it out, that's when what you're looking for comes. And for me, it's like when you're sitting still long enough for butterflies to land on you because that's what you were always looking for your whole life. That's what we're all looking for. We're all looking for a quiet mind. And a quiet mind doesn't come from trying to figure it out. It comes from being still enough and looking in the right direction. And in this sense, to me, the right direction is getting a feel and understanding of how your mind works. Not necessarily by figuring it out, but by getting a feel for it. And sometimes to me, that comes from just being around people or being in this conversation, being in the feeling of this conversation, this quiet, calm conversation where you're not necessarily trying to figure out what I'm saying, but you're more feeling the essence of it, and something's going to land for you. Like you're going to hear exactly what you need to hear for you in this conversation. And all you have to do is hold it lightly enough and for it to come. So that's the first part about how I didn't see that until now, how we innocently self-soothe by trying to figure stuff out. Because to me, it's like a sense of control. You know, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Like, why am I so fucked up? Why am I so messed up? I'm going to figure this out. And because the truth is right, the truth is right there waiting for us. We just got to be still enough, because I believe in our hearts that our hearts knows what we want, or the deeper intelligence knows what we want. And when we're still enough, it almost like gives it to us. But we got to be still enough. And to me, our deeper mind is always settled because that's the way it's made. We're always settled. Is that we make stuff up and we get caught up and we spiral and we let it go and we come back to a settled state of mind. It does that naturally. That's the way the system is made. Somebody earlier said that she was in a space where it was very safe for a long time, that she was coming back to the real world where things didn't feel safe. And to me, I would say that you can always feel safe if you don't care what you're thinking about. You could be in the worst circumstances and you could still feel safe if you were really present. To me, one of my safe spaces was in training because, I was training 3 hours a day. And it was my safe space because there was so much happening. I was competing, I was fighting, I was training, I was kicking. I didn't have time to pay attention to anything else in my head. And I was so present because I had to be, and that was my safe space. I was doing a workshop last week, and the lady was telling me how she had this moment of just bliss, of being of pure presence, of joy. And she was in the mountains, and it was this beautiful nature. And she asked me, like, how do I get more of that? And I said, you can find that at a McDonald's because it's always there. Really, it is. You can find it getting your ass beat in a taekwondo gym or fighting at National Olympics on a radio show, on this call. It's always there for us. And it comes and it goes. And that's new to me. Is when we feel those moments, we try and hold on to them because we think they're fleeting. We think we're never going to get them back. And we try and hold on or recreate them. And the truth is they come and go. But if you know they come and go, you have faith that it's there, not that it's never going to come back. And to me, the best way to return to this state of mind is to notice when you're off. When you feel unsafe, something's off. When you think someone's an asshole, something's off because your thinking's in the way. When you feel like, for me, things get less funny when like things aren't funny and I'm not light and things feel heavy. I know it's me. I know it's not the outside. It might look like it's the outside, but it's always me. I'm always living in my thinking. And that's really, 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 really helpful to know that you don't need to change your circumstances to feel okay. And someone might say, well, what if it's life threatening? Common sense will take over. If you need to do something, common sense, like you need to move right now. I remember in my best states of mind in competing taekwondo, it was like I got to watch myself compete, and it was so awesome. My body would move without me thinking about it. It would just move. Someone would, like my opponent would kick, and my body would just move on its own without having to think about it. Like your body knows what to do. You know what to do if you listen to it. And to me, a big part of being really present is listening. Mavis Karn would say the shortest distance between stress and love is listening, because when you're listening, you're paying attention, and when you're paying attention to your state of mind, you know when you're off. And I think a problem we often have is we stop paying attention to our states of mind, and that we spend so much time overloaded and overwhelmed, is that by the time we notice, like things start, our minds and our bodies start doing things to really get our attention. Like we get sick, we have nervous breakdowns because you're like, oh, you're not listening, we're going to turn up the volume. But to me, when you start to come back to listen to yourself and to your mind, to your deeper wisdom, you catch that stuff way, way earlier. Yeah. So that's what I have to say about that.
So it sounds like you had a premise that I wasn't good enough, and then that led to a search, a use of your thinking and of your mind that ironically was actually blocking that wisdom, that grounding, that peace to come through you. And so it's not even about like dropping the premise or having to figure that out. It's just letting go of what you're thinking in the moment that is getting in the way.
yeah. So wisdom is always there. We just don't notice it or don't listen to it because we're so busy paying attention to the thinking that looks real, that this environment is unsafe, this environment is very loud, I'm not good enough. Like that had so that I had such a grip on my attention I couldn't hear anything else. um Even now, like just, just because I'm saying all these like nice things now doesn't mean, I float around on a cloud. Like I still have bad days. I still get attached. I still, there are moments like I'm not good enough. I remember I was hosting an immersion, a leadership immersion in Bangkok, and I was really attached to it. I was like, oh man, if nobody comes, I'm not good enough. They don't like me. And then my mentor, Win Morgan at the time, he's like, you're holding this really tightly. And I was like, oh yeah, I am. And just like that, I let go because I realized I had tied my self-worth to this outcome. And by seeing that, I just let it go because it didn't make sense to tie my self-worth to this one outcome. But that's what our thinking does. It makes it look so real. We don't see it until we do. One thing that really helped me is, and I got this from Aaron Turner, is what did he said? To be there's a word for it. To be unwavering in knowing that it's all my thinking. It can only be my thinking. Uncompromising was the word he used. To be uncompromising that it's always my thinking. And I'm like, oh, hang on, that feels off. It's my thinking. And to give myself enough grace and ease and not give my shit for forgetting that.
I think we all do it. We all get caught in our thinking, and then we all sometimes give ourselves crap for that. And then that just kind of creates more thinking on top of thinking.
Oh yeah. Did that my whole life. And I thought I was being smart.
Mm. Like we're being irresponsible if we don't give ourselves crap for getting caught in our own thinking or caught in our own ways or falling into a low mood. It's part of being responsible is and taking responsibility is making sure that we're at a good place all of the time. But we're not responsible for that. We don't have to be responsible
Yeah.
for being in a good place.
Yeah, isn't that cool to know that being in a good place is not like you can it's not something you have to control. Also, what you talked about, Rich, is another premise too. I think we're really conditioned to think to like run away from pain and go towards pleasure. Like we're really like the way things are sold to us, it's very much like that. Oh, avoid this problem, get this pleasure. Like we're really trained to think that way. And the truth is we can just be. Like just being is really, really, really underrated.
The other
Mm.
problem with that, though, is that the pain and pleasure, in a lot of ways, are made up. They're stories from our thinking, and something that gives you pain before, like losing at Taekwondo or making a mistake, isn't that big of a deal sometimes, but sometimes it's very painful. So it's like we're having to avoid our own thinking, but our thinking is continually changing. So it's not something you can take account of. It's not something you can plan for.
Mm. Well, our thinking is just telling us what's on our mind. That's all it's doing. It that's all it's doing. Our thinking is always telling us the quality of our thinking, meaning if it feels painful, like, oh, we got some thinking going on that makes it look really painful.
Mhm. We're in
Mm.
a lower mood. We're contracted. We're unsettling
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, absolutely.
But I think a lot of the times we feel like that's a problem. And especially that it's a problem to be solved. And that's
Mm.
where we get into trouble because we're going to use our thinking to solve something that's caused by the thinking itself.
Yeah, I see the innocence of it, like, and how that would make sense if one didn't know any better.
Hmm.
If we think all we had was our thinking and our intellect to solve problems, of course I'm going to use it all the time. And then I'm going to overload it, and then I'm going to overwhelm it. I'm going to feel like crap. And then I'm going to find a way to self-soothe. And so those ways might not be healthy. It might be work, it might be drugs, sex, alcohol, fill in the blank. One of the things that's been really helpful to me in knowing my okayness is that it's the source of who we really are. It's that knowing that we are the deeper wisdom. We are that energy that's coming through us, that's working through us. The energy in me looking at you and the energy in you looking at me. Like, that's a big deal. Like, that's a way bigger deal than we all give ourselves credit for. Like, wow, we got that going for us. Like, how cool. And to me, when you start noticing that, it's far easier to rely on it. Like, I wish I knew this way sooner. I would have been a way better athlete. I only knew at the tail end, but I would have been a way, way better athlete. I would have had more fun. Mm. Then, if you're up for homework after this talk, if you're listening to this, I got this from reading one of Michael Niels's emails, and it was a conversation between him and a client, and they were talking about money. And Michael had asked the client, where do you thrive? And the client was like, oh, when I cook, I just throw stuff together. I look at the ingredients in the fridge and things come to mind. And Michael would point out, well, that's you having no thinking about it. You're in tune, you're in flow, things come to you, it feels natural. And it says, and he asked, so where do you struggle? It's like, oh, money. When I think about money and my finances, there's so much on it. And there's all this work, like all these things I have to do. And I was like, oh, yeah, because you've taken the worst part of you and tried to approach this challenge to do it. You can do the same with money as you do with cooking. It's like no, not thinking about it. What I loved about that conversation was it wasn't about a strategy about, okay, here's how to approach money the same way you approach cooking. It was simply noticing how this client was approaching those two things. When I read that, I realized, like, man, the things I really care about, I think so much about. The things I really like, oh, taekwondo, throw all my thinking at it. Oh, relationships, throw all my thinking at it. No wonder it was hard. And when it comes to like things like coaching or things like this, I have no thinking about it because it doesn't make sense to me to overthink it. It used to bug people. You know what? I would do like I'm doing a lot of speaking events with people in academia, and it kind of I can tell it bugs them when they ask like, so Nikon, what do you have planned? And it's like, I don't know yet. It bothers them and then they see me speak, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Nikon's thing. He does like he wings it. It's great. It works out. But I can see how I'm saying that because I can see how we're so used to figuring things out. And that when you start living life in this way from this deeper wisdom, it's kind of weird because we're not used to it.
It feels different.
Like I know telling, yeah, very different.
Mhm.
If like similar telling this person that they can find safety anywhere, like that kind of knocks on some thinking, right? Like What do you mean you can find safe feelings of safety everywhere? It's going to take a bit of time to see it. It's really hard to see it, because when we have this kind of conversation, we bump up against our thinking that feels really solid. Like it's really hard. And we deserve a lot of credit for the little amount we do see.
And sometimes I like to imagine it that it's like this brick wall that we come up against, and we can, if we see that this brick wall is real in our thought system, oh yeah, it hurts, and we can slam our face against it and give ourselves a bloody nose, but it's only made of thought, and you can pass right through it. We just don't know that we can. We don't think we can.
All
I,
right. The new Aliens movie is out, Romulus, right?
I haven't seen it yet. I really want to.
I'm gonna go watch the movie. Okay. I'm gonna go watch that movie because I want to go be entertained. And I want to go believe for like an hour and 20 minutes that aliens are real and space and all that stuff. But I know that in the back of my mind it's not real, but I'm gonna go be entertained. I think thought is like that. And I always love movie metaphors because the moment you see like all the aliens behind the scenes, like them putting on the makeup and like the animatronics, it immediately not scary. Like immediately, because there's not the music and the lighting and the special effects. And you're like, oh, okay. But I'm gonna go to the movie because I want to be entertained, because I want the lights and the special effects and the I want the whole package. But it's really nice to know that it's a movie.
Yeah, we have to have, in the movies they call it suspension of disbelief. When you suspend your disbelief for a moment to enjoy the movie, because you know in the back of your mind that aliens aren't real. But also you do still have to have a little bit of disbelief. Otherwise you're going to run screaming out of the theater if you believe that the aliens are real. So there's kind of like a middle ground there, and the same is true with our thinking. If we approach it like it's completely real, we're going to run screaming out of our brains and our thought systems, and it's going to feel very unsettled. But if we have a little bit of disbelief, a healthy disbelief in our thoughts, we can, like you described, enjoy it. Enjoy it kind of as this entertaining movie. It's a story. It's literally a story. Our mind literally creates stories for us all the time. It's a story making machine.
Mm.
And we can see that. And if we see that, we don't have to fall into the fact that it's real. We don't have to get carried away by it.
When we stop being afraid of our thinking, we get to enjoy our imaginations. And imagination is what got our species here, Rich. Imagination, right? When we're not afraid of our thinking and we're free to entertain it, we're free to, like the Wright brothers who looked at the sky, looked at a bird, like, you know what? I want to build something that can help us fly. Fuck it. Let's see what happens. Here we are. Like it meant like it's our it connects us to our ability to know things beyond what we intellectually know. And that's what's on offer here, is that when we stop being afraid, when we stop needing to be safe, we're free to really tap into our wisdom and our imagination, and it'll take us places.
So it's like, so I have an 8-month-old, and she
Mm.
will be using her imagination more and more. And I like to tell clients that you don't stop using your imagination. You never do as an adult. As an adult, you use your imagination all the time, only you do it to make yourself worried and fearful and unsettled. And it's just as unreal
Mm.
as when you used your imagination as a kid to create dragons and princesses and unicorns and princes. And but if we see that, then we can use it in ways that's more magical, like you were talking about. Like it's incredible. It's an incredible gift. It's a gift. It really is. It's a gift. It's just a
Yeah,
gift that you can misuse.
cool. I think for me, what I would want everyone to take away from today, if I could choose, would be to notice how they're using the gift.
Mm.
Mm, that's it. And they're free to use it however which way they want to use it. But to notice that how they're using it. Are they using it to hurt themselves, or are they using it to live the life they want, or be happy with the life they have, or both, or not at all? How about you?
Yeah, I was gonna just say it's about time.
Yeah.
If you have a question, you can raise your hand. We don't have a lot of people here, so you might just be able to unmute yourself and speak up. I'm gonna turn it on to gallery mode.
Were a few sentences I jotted down. It's not necessarily a question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Only for you, Rin. Only for you.
Only for me. Sweet. um, yeah, the sentence you can always feel safe if you don't care what you're thinking about.
Hmm.
Um, something that I learned while I was an inpatient very recently, as of like a couple days ago, was that we are our thoughts. Like it doesn't. I don't know how to say it. It doesn't make us who we are necessarily. Like just because I believe that I don't know, I can't think of a good example. Uh, uh, just because like I believe bees are scary doesn't make them scary. It's just a thought that I have based on maybe a negative experience, and that really um, solidified. Like I had a moment of clarity right at the end when you were talking about imagination, um, and I'm not taking this as like a negative ego hit. I'm just being aware that I've allowed my thinking to fixate on the negative experiences that I've witnessed instead of maximizing the positive ones. And that's a survival mechanism, but I'm going to be more aware of it now. And that was really, really helpful what you said about using imagination, like whether you're going to hurt yourself with it or help yourself with it. That's huge. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to share that with any friends that are interested in psychology because I love that idea.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you know what occurred to me when you shared that, Rin? I was in a workshop last week and I shared something I never shared before. I said, I can sit here and have really sexist and racist, sexist thoughts, and that doesn't make me a sexist. I can have really racist thoughts, and that doesn't make me racist because I don't care what's on my mind. Like I have a lot of weird stuff that goes through my head, but it doesn't come out of my mouth because I'm not interested in any of it. Like I just know the most important thing to me is what's in front of me. Like I'm made to work really well with what's in front of me. And that's really helpful. I think for a long time I used to try and control my thinking because I thought um, early on in my personal development career, I had a premise that think positive thoughts good, think negative thoughts bad, and now they're all thought. Yeah. And I know if I'm in a good feeling or not. That's what I would say. Cool. Really happy for you, Rin.
I'll show my face if you can see it. I just wanted to chime in too, is just kind of like what you guys have been talking about when an individual gets that moment of clarity that says, I'm okay. I realize I'm okay. Everything in my mind has been telling me otherwise my whole life. The subconscious has been playing against me, and it makes perfect sense because I think that's how that mechanism works. To continue to make life in front of us in a predictable, patterned way of living, whether it's positive or negative. We're the ones judging it based off this mind of ours that's been running and conditioning our whole lives. But when someone realizes, they're exactly where they're supposed to be, they're okay, it gives them a leverage in the fight, because then you can spectate your thoughts. You can see them coming and you can say, those aren't me. Those are, like you said, it could be a racist. They just run. They run nonstop. But when you know that at any moment it's available to you, that's your good. And your job is to just be you to the fullest you can. It's so freeing, but it gives you so much more leverage in that fight. Because again, the thoughts can go by. The thoughts can go by. You can feel the feeling and you can say, that's not me. I know me. My mind has stayed in peace. And you understand how better you can leverage the years of what looked like wasted time. The carrot in front of you with Taekwondo. I hope I called that out right. You never were going to reach the thing that filled the void in your heart. It was projecting from that place of lack that was misunderstood from probably childhood, and as you see people running these same patterns, continuing to have this carrot in front of them, when you are operating fundamentally from the place of lack or I'm not enough, life will continue to serve you the feelings to reinstill that subconscious belief system. You're not enough. So no matter what you do, it returns void. No matter if you hit the high of getting the gold medal, you still come back to, I'm not enough. It still isn't enough. I guess my heart is getting people to that place where they understand for themselves, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You are okay. It will work out. Everything's unfolding perfectly. And you're grabbing to that, switching the side of your brain you're using, and you use that side of brain to go through life, find that flow, stop fighting the resistance, because it's all working to leverage you. But when you can see, I guess one experience for me a couple of years ago, I was coming in my door and I really didn't want to get caught by a neighbor. I didn't want to talk. I don't like small talk so much because I quickly go pretty deep to the things I work through. I wouldn't say wrestle with, but but as my key wouldn't turn the lock, the amount of anxiety was crippling me and nothing was happening. And I stepped back from the door and it was just another silly moment of clarity where I was like, this is happening in here. Nothing's happening. The dissonance of the situation, it almost was like the Matrix showed itself too much to me there, where I realized, oh, dude, it's in our minds. We're all having our own universal experience. We're all having the parent trauma, the this, the that. Everyone has the opportunity to go back in them, reinstill that knowing of it's okay. And no one else can offer that to you, but you being the one to go in yourself and being willing to be brave. That's my report. I'll get off it, but thank you.
Thanks, Nicola.
Sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What do you mean the fight? I'm just curious.
Boy, growing up in the church really conditioned me in the mindset of, you're saving souls. That's what you're doing here. And everything else is BS. So if that's kind of it's been this really, when you bring faith into it and I don't call myself a trauma survivor. I don't want to throw anything around loosely, but with a lot of my past, always coming up unworthy, always coming up never enough, unloved. And you put that with the church and with what Jesus was trying to convey, it creates such a if he's going to say it, I'm going to wrestle. I'm going to fight. If he says my followers will do greater, I'm a kid in the church. Show me that. You know what I mean? So it created in me this, it was, I guess, a fight because, again, from probably 6 on, I was set off in a trauma response. So I was continually trying to shut off my brain to something that wasn't real. It was a child who grabbed onto a pattern, thinking he was going to control something, develop something, make something that would give me the worth, give me, I guess, what I needed to fulfill my dreams. But it was life continually reminding me what a piece of shit I was. After 3 kids that I never planned on having, and it just wasn't my dream to walk the road I walked. I got married, had 2 kids, adopted 1, and then my ex decided she was going to do something different. And it again left me in a place of, you have no value. You suck. When the one person who came along who told you otherwise, again, reiterates that subconscious belief of you're not enough. It left me again in that state. And as someone who's just been aware of patterns in my own life from a young age, it gets really frustrating when, again, you're the common denominator and you're the one alone and you're the one having to look at the situation, So that was the original fight for me. When it finally cracked and I understood my inherent value, that I wasn't made, there was no mistakes when I was made. There was no missteps, even in my journey to the moment of awakening or understanding that I grabbed. I realized there was nothing to figure out, that there was no hell for me to run from, that there was no soul that I was going to save by getting them to say a certain prayer like I had been trained. The fight became, I get to be me to the fullest of that extent, and that's the joy in what I take into my meditation. Who am I? What are the giftings I have? And I believe that's everybody's role here on earth, is to understand who they are, and that is it. Period. It's enough. And you start instilling these beliefs into your subconscious. That way you get some sort of filter. When you feel those bad days, you go, that's me. When I feel like that guy's an asshole, that's me. Because in the core of my being, that guy is me. We're all one. We're all sharing the experience. When I hurt you, I hurt me. When I hurt me, it goes around. So the fight almost becomes a surrender. How fast can you remember to stop thinking about it and just be? And then life unfolds from there.
Thanks for sharing. I'm happy I asked.
Sure.
Cool.
I can relate a lot with I won't go into it, but with the religious trauma, I can relate a lot to that. Was also raised in a fundamentalist Christian. I'm assuming that yours is also kind of like, sounds like kind of like a fundamentalist Christian background.
Sure. Yeah.
But the difference, one of the differences between us, at least, is I rejected it at a really young age. So the sense of belonging was missing, like the sense of community was missing from a really young age. So that's what I'm trying to heal. And I've come across very similar thoughts that you just described, of like discovering, like, no, I am just enough. I don't need to be like a productive member of society to just belong, or just to like to be worthy of love, or to be worthy of acceptance,
right,
or to be worthy of all of that. Yeah, so we have like a lot of similarities and a lot of differences too, obviously. But yeah, it was nice to hear you like just describe your experience. That was really helpful and comforting. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah. I'm 34 now, and it took almost every bit of that time to realize I'm right on time, and at every moment I realize it. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Every moment I surrender to thinking I need to be somewhere. And like, what's beautiful is I'm not special. It's for everybody who can grab onto that. You know what I mean? And that's the beautiful thing. There's no perfect class or yoga move you're going to do that's going to click it all into place. It's most of the battles just that half of our brain that's been so trained to tell you, no, you don't deserve shit. Nope, that will not work out for you. Yes, this happened because you this. That stuff is always there, and it's so nonstop. But that's the beauty of when it starts taking root in you, that this is more leverage to help me better share and be myself. When it took me 32 years to say, I like what I see in the mirror, you know, and that's a beautiful thing. But thank you.
That is a gift, and it's almost like we're trying to figure out the puzzle of ourselves, and we think that we can finally have that moment when you're building a puzzle where you put the last piece in, and it's just like, oh. And we're looking for that, I feel like. But the thing about it is that the puzzle pieces change and warp, and what fit before doesn't fit anymore, and it's all different because of our mood. And when you come to see, like you were talking about, you have that matrix moment of there is no puzzle, there is no spoon, there is no puzzle. I don't have to fit myself together. It's freeing. It's freeing, and it's beautiful what you shared too.
It's hard to describe it. It's hard to describe, you know, for someone to let go when they're not holding anything, when it may just be a projection, it may all be a simulation. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not here to prove any of that. I'm here to work with it in the way I understand it now. It's a amazing thing when people can find their ability to let go of what it is they've been holding so long, whether it be that I'm going to get the final piece, because your life depends on it and you live that way. You carry it in your size, you carry it in your breath, you carry it all around. It's a full contact sport. And the same way goes when you understand for yourself that there's nothing to figure out in any of it. And you'll be better leveraged to serve humanity when you let go of it all.
We're going to continue this conversation, and the next guest that we're going to have is Rob Cook. He's a trauma coach, so he's awesome, and I would like to invite you to that. And Nikon, thank you so much for joining us for today. And if people want to connect with you, if they want to find you, also be posting this on YouTube as well. So Rin, you don't have to go back to all of your notes. You can rewatch it if you would like to and find some of those moments. But where can people find you? And if you have anything else that you'd like to say, Nikon, I would like to invite you to do that now.
Sure. Fairly active on Instagram. I normally say my website, but there's probably more cool stuff on my Instagram. So nikon.gormley, nikon.gormley. And you can see all the cool things I'm up to there. And think about what to tell. I think if I were to give people something, it would just be to, and this comes from Dr. Bill Pettit, is to just be really gentle with yourselves as you're seeing more of this, as you're learning more about it. Be really gentle with yourselves in this. Just be really, really gentle with yourselves. You're doing the best you can. Really. And the fact that you're here is a much bigger deal than you know, because you're willing to see more. And I think you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Again, we so appreciate you spending the time with us today. He's coming all the way from, is Taiwan, right?
Thailand.
Thailand. That's right.
Thailand, Southeast Asia. Taiwan is East Asia, but close enough. I'll take it.
No, I want to get it right. Well, he's coming all the way. So what time is it? What time is it there, Nikon?
It is 1:30 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
So there are only a few people in this world I will do midnight calls, and one of them is Rich. So anybody else, no. But for Rich, I will do midnight stuff for Rich. It's on YouTube too.
That warms my heart so much.
Oh, well, thank you, Rich. Then thanks, Nikon.
Yeah, and also
We're sorry, we're just riding on Rich's grace. Yeah,
It's okay.
go ahead.
Also, I highly recommend if get on Nikon's mailing list, because once a month he has a free call where he shares some coaching wisdom, and he spends a full hour just giving back to the community. And it's something that is, I attended last time. It's something that's very powerful.
That's right. That's right.
So I highly recommend.
First Tuesday of the month. Yeah, first Tuesday of the month is called First Free Tuesdays. And it's an open office hour where anybody can come. And it's my way of giving back everything that I've received over the years. And I thought, why not? No, I just wish you all the best. You guys are doing great. Like, really, all the best. All my best. Thank you.
We'll let you get to sleep. Have a great
Good night.
Thank you, Nikon. Take care.
Your boy's going to bed.
Sweet dreams.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.